to federal and state affairs. Thanks for everybody for braving the extremely slick streets in some areas. Appreciate the fact that everybody got here safely. And I know I did a little bit of sliding. It was a little skating in my neighborhood with a four-wheel drive truck, so it happens. Are there any bill introductions this morning before we get started? Seeing none, committee, we just have real short work today. I want to work Senate Bill 249, which we heard last week, and that has to do with the vacancies in a state treasurer or state insurance commissioner. And I'll have Jason give us a quick bill brief as a reminder, and then see what the will of the committee is with that. Jason?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Senate Bill 249 was the bill providing governance for filling vacancies in the offices of the state treasurer and the commissioner of insurance. Under current law, if a vacancy occurs in either one of those positions, it is to be filled for the unexpired term by the governor. That process would be replaced under the bill by new statute that would require the governor to notify the state party chairperson of the political party of the office holder who was elected at the previous general election for that office. So it'd be the same political party. Then the state party of that political party would hold a convention to elect a individual to be appointed to that vacancy. The election, upon completion of the election by the state party delegate convention, would then be transmitted and certified to the governor with copies to the Secretary of State. The governor would then have 7 days to appoint that individual to fill the vacancy. If the governor fails to do so, then the person would be appointed pursuant to statute to fill that vacancy.
Okay, committee, any questions? I think Senator Holscher has her hand up. She's online, and then Senator Fausto. Senator Holscher.
Thank you, Senator Thompson. Yes, Jason, I do have a question. Can you remind me if there's anything in this bill that outlines the total time frame as far as a requirement in terms of getting that vacancy filled versus what's currently the time frame?
Jason?
Yes. So the I'm looking for the notice. So once the chairperson has notice of the vacancy, the state party delegate convention has to be held within 21 days after they receive that notice. And then they have to transmit their selected candidate immediately to the governor, who then has 7 days to appoint that person. So that timeline obviously is, of course, about 28 days. And so with a little leeway on notice of the vacancy, you're looking at, approximately 30 days or so of a total timeline. Under current law, there is no timeline. The vacancy for the office is simply appointed by the governor to serve that expired term until a successor is elected and qualified. And there's no timeline as to when the governor is to fill that vacancy.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Senator Fausto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jason, so do you happen to know how many times this has occurred to whereas this issue would be warranted?
I do not. I don't know if research has had any chance to look into how many times the governor is appointed to fill a vacancy in either of these offices.
Elena, do you have that information?
We have a couple concerning the Office of the Treasurer, but the State Library is actually helping us research that, and they said they could get that information to us this week.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd appreciate that information. And then, so to me, this issue is one of those things where it's not broken, and why are we trying to fix it? And then we elect the governor to the majority of the of Kansans elected the current governor and others to address these issues. I am curious, so, and we would all think that the governor has knowledge of individuals that have the ability and the expertise in those particular areas to fill those vacancies. So the delegation, again, Jason, who would be making this selection, they are from where, and would they all be in that process? Would they be given a list of, I mean, would they know the individual's qualifications? But who are those individuals and where would that process take place? Again, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate this. I just don't think it's broken to whereas we need to fix this at this point. Thank you.
Jason.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, under the proposed language in Senate Bill 249, the delegates to the state party convention would be state party committee members. So it would have to be members of the state party committee of the same political party as the office holder who was elected at the last election. And so those would be your delegates. In terms of the procedures of the convention and coming to an election and electing, the statute simply requires a secret ballot and that the person who is elected receive a majority of all the votes cast. How the convention comes to nominate candidates or select candidates for the election would be left to the state party committee.
So bottom line is they would come up with probably a list of candidates to vote on, I'm guessing, depending on who, whichever party holds that office, that party's delegation would then come up with the appointee for that, for the governor to approve. Sure. Any other questions? Seeing none, committee, what's the will of the committee on this? Senator Blasey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was working with the revisor on an amendment, but I don't know if it's quite ready due to time, but we can at least discuss it for the committee, just to discuss and see where it goes. But more or less, I do have concerns that, asking a political party to try to rally up all of its members from across the state with certain timelines and trying to put together a candidate seems like a potential for a mess. And so I do like the idea of the governor having the ultimate authority to choose, but I think there should be probably some parameters. Like we've seen in the past where a individual member from a certain party has held an office and then resigned for whatever reason, and then the governor picks someone from a different political party. And I think it's important to respect the wishes of the people and to keep the same party in that office. So, for example, if the state treasurer was held by a Democrat and a Democrat resigned, and a Republican governor would have to appoint then a Democrat to that office. It couldn't pick someone else. So my amendment would reflect that, and then unless the person is an independent, then there'd be more discretion for the governor to choose whomever. But I put on there that the person would require Senate confirmation to take office. I do believe that the 40 senators who have been elected or appointed duly by law should have the responsibility to select and at least check the balance of the authority of the the appointing power. It's important that, if there's concerns about having guardrails and having more than one person make that decision, which is the governor, I think then we can expand it up, but we need to ensure it's probably the legislature has oversight instead of a political party with hundreds of delegates. So that's what my amendment would reflect, and I don't know if, Jason, if you have a copy, we could pass it around and we could talk about it. I do know in the amendment it's drafted where the Senate or the governor would have to call back the legislature for a special session if we're not in session to confirm, and I think there might be some questions about whether or not the legislature can actually dictate the governor calling a special session. So I would probably ask for a conceptual amendment to change that to just the current process, which is the Confirmation Oversight Committee would have influence during the interim.
So do we have a copy of those amendments? Okay. Distribute to the committee and take a look. Thank you, sir. Give everyone a minute to read it over here.
What I should add, I did add the lieutenant governor in there,
Oh, to the,
the office of lieutenant
To the
governor. And that is because, you know, how many times have we seen lieutenant governors take office in the state? And not to mention, President Gerald Ford was never elected by the voters, and he served as president of the United States. So I think it's important that we do have some check and balance on these positions. So I did add that office in there.
all right, give everybody a chance to read this over here real fast. Have you had time to review it, Jason? I just want to make sure before you explain it, if you've had time. Obviously, you probably drew it up, so.
Mr. Chairman, yes, I drafted it, so I have read it through a few times.
Okay, I'll let you do the explanation then.
Yes, so this proposed substitute for Senate Bill 249 would amend 3 statutes. The first on page 1 there is a statute with respect to vacancies in the office of state treasurer. You see language where the suitable person shall be registered with the same political party as that of the state treasurer elected at the immediately preceding election for such office. So the governor must appoint a person of the same political party. The following new language you see on that same page would allow the governor to appoint a suitable person if the state treasurer who is vacating office was an independent and not registered with any political party. And then right after that is the appointments being made subject to Senate confirmation. The following language is language that would require the governor to call a special session if the appointment is made outside of the regular session of the legislature. As the senator noted, there is some question as to whether or not the legislature has the constitutional authority to direct the governor to call a special session by statute in this manner. And so I believe the conceptual adjustment to this language would simply to add the standard language we have to allow the Committee on Confirmation Oversight to take up the appointment if it's done outside of the legislative regular session, as they do with all other interim appointments by the governor. The other amendment appears on page 2. This is a statute governing vacancies on the Commissioner of Insurance. Again, it's very similar language to what was on page 1. And again, the conceptual amendment for Senate confirmation oversight would apply to this language as well. Finally, at the bottom of page 2 onto page 3 is a statute governing some vacancy in the office of lieutenant governor. And again, you have that same language with respect to the governor's appointment being subject to Senate confirmation. The only difference on section 3 is you do not have the same political party language under this one because the Constitution requires that the governor and lieutenant governor run on the same ticket. And so I believe that covers the same political party requirement under constitutional proviso. So it's not as part of this language, but the same Senate confirmation language appears there on page 3 with respect to the lieutenant governor.
Okay. Questions, committee? Senator Reichman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to go back to the lieutenant governor one. Will you still need Senate confirmation on the lieutenant governor piece?
Yes, that is a requirement under this proposed substitute.
Okay.
Well, okay, the question, the problem I have with that is that the governor and lieutenant governor run in the same party, and then the confirmation, it could be a majority party of another, of the other party could decide then who would be the lieutenant governor. I mean, confirming it. I just have a problem with that part. Thank you.
Senator Holscher, I think, has her hand up. Senator Holscher.
Yes, thank you. Jason, it cut out just a little bit there. What did you say happens if, under the treasurer section, if that person is an independent?
Then the provision just reverts back to what is current law, where the governor simply appoints a suitable person to serve for the unexpired term.
Okay, great, thank you.
And that's in the current bill.
That's current law, yes.
Yeah, that's currently in there. And so this, if I understand this, this would not go to the party delegation. This would be, the appointments would, if I just ask to carry the amendment, what the intention was, Chase or Senator Blasey? What was the intention? I mean, this cuts out the state party delegation.
Correct.
Where would the nominees come from, say?
So more or less, the goal that was heard by I thought I heard from the conferees last week was the goal is to ensure that just one person doesn't have exclusive authority to pick someone. So what I took was current law, added Senate confirmation, and required that the person be of the same political party of the person leaving office. That was all. That's really all I'm doing here.
So the governor could come up with the name?
Well, correct. The governor would still have the right to pick the person. She could pick whomever, and then that person would have to stand before the Senate for confirmation.
I think the intent of the political party was to have the political party come up with the nominees.
That is correct, and that's why this is a substitute amendment, partly because I just don't know if, the political parties are just always in, just look at the political parties right now. Looks like a mess. So I don't know if we really want to entrust them. There's a reason why they asked us to have a presidential primary, because they can't manage a caucus. So I think that's why we need to do something like this.
Okay. Any other questions, committee? Senator Fasquedo and then Senator Klutz after that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jason, our senator who brought forth the amendment. So when we talk about immediately preceding the election, so what's the little time zone in here for all of this to happen? So there would be a period that we wouldn't have that treasurer or insurance commissioner. So what does immediately mean in this situation? Thank you.
Jason.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the language in there immediately preceding election is simply the qualifier for the political party of the outgoing office holder. So, for instance, in 2022, the state treasurer elected as a Republican. They vacate that position in 2024. Under this proposal, the governor would have to appoint somebody who was registered as a Republican in this state because that was the party of the state treasurer who was elected in 22.
Senator Klutz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe just a question for Jason. Okay, so the independent, if there was an independent, that individual wouldn't be confirmed by the Senate? It would just revert back to what's current?
No, all appointments would be subject to Senate confirmation.
Okay, and then how does that work if someone decides they want to shift out of a party and become independent? Is there a time frame, or does that come under current statute for what's allowed?
That is determined by the candidate when they file for office, and this is all predicated on the political party of the candidate at the time of their election. And so if a candidate files as an independent, does not file as registered with either political party and runs on an independent ticket and is elected to the office of state treasurer, then the governor would not be held to appoint anybody from a particular political party. However, if the state treasurer ran on a Republican ticket and was elected as a Republican and then changed parties and became an independent during their term and then vacated office, the governor would still be required under this proposal to appoint a member of the Republican Party.
Okay, now I'm following. Okay, all right, that makes sense.
They can't be a shapeshifter, basically. Right. Any other questions or Senator Reichman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I think there's a lot of merit to this. And I really, as far as Section 1 and 2, I'm in favor of that. I would not be in favor of Section 3. I think that party's already they're together, and I hate to have that in there, but with the oversight of the Senate, and they could tell if that person's really a Republican or a Democrat whoever's picking them. Because we know some people switch back and forth real quickly, if they're Republican or not. And if you haven't Senate confirmation, they can know who decided to switch just before. They'll have a record of that.
Right.
And so we could really, let's sit in case that's, let's just stick with the Republican Party. That's a Republican, because they're usually the ones that is elected for treasurer and whatever. So if they're going to be replaced, the governor picks it, but the Senate still has to confirm it. And they can tell if that's a real true Republican or someone just decided to switch the day before. So I think we got to check some balance in here. You're sticking with the same party that elected that particular office, okay? And I think it'll be a faster and what was presented by the person that presented this. It'll be a smoother and a faster, I think, transaction of correcting, which could be a problem. Thank you.
Any other comments or concerns? Well, Senator Cluse. And Holscher, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just, I still want to understand the piece. So as, and I don't know who this go to, maybe Senator Blasey. So the delegates of the party then would not be in the picture at all.
That's correct.
And then the follow-up, that individual that is chosen from either party is 100% at discretion of whoever the governor is at that point.
Which is current law.
Thank you.
Senator Holscher.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. There's some things in this amendment that I really do like, but kind of to Senator Reichman's point, piggybacking on that, I get a little bit more concerned actually by adding legislative oversight, because I don't know that that makes the process go necessarily any smoother. And I'm afraid actually it would stall the process and make the whole thing take longer. And these are such important positions that I don't think we want them left vacant for a long period of time. So like I said, while I like a lot of the things in this amendment, the legislative oversight does concern me.
Okay. Senator Pascadoe.
Mr. Chairman, to the senator that carried this amendment, would you be willing to remove or address that piece of concern?
Mr. Chairman, I think the whole concern brought forth by the members who brought this forward last week, their concern was having one person make the decision, which is the governor. And so the Senate confirmation piece hopefully answers that concern. And then the political party piece just adds another layer of protection in terms of the voters chose a certain political party, a person of a certain political party to hold this office. So it only makes sense that maybe someone from that party should continue to hold that office the rest of that term.
Any other questions, comments? Senator, if you'd like to move your amendment.
I will move my amendment. We'll see where it goes. Thanks.
Okay. Oh, Jason, is there a?
Mr. Chairman, may I just clarify, the motion is the proposed substitute with the conceptual amendment to replace the special session language with Senate Oversight Committee approval of the appointment?
That is correct. That's my motion.
Okay. Just any questions about that? Senator, oh, I'm sorry. Back and forth this morning. Okay. Any questions then? We have a motion by Senator Blasey, a second by Senator Longbine. Senator Reichman, did you have a comment?
Yes, I just make sure that this motion is going to conclude all three sections.
That is correct. And I know you had a concern, you said, with the third piece, Lieutenant Governor having Senate confirmation. So if this amendment doesn't pass, we can try again.
Okay. All righty. Committee, we have a motion by Senator Blasey, Senator Longbine second. Sorry, brain cramp this morning. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Okay, the motion carries, I think. Okay, the motion carries. So we are back on the bill. Senator Fascadeau.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, we're back on the,
We're back on the bill as amended, yes, Senate Bill 249 as amended. Would you have a question?
so I just want to make a comment.
Sure.
So currently, I think that what is already in statute, what the governor's authority would be, I feel it's already, it's working, it's not broken. I feel that when we allow delegates to be selected to make this decision, it bypasses the will of the people who originally voted. And so while I reluctantly voted for the amendment to make it better, I'll still be opposing the legislation. Thank you.
Any other comments, committee? Senator Cluse.
Just so for clarity, but the delegate piece is out now under the new.
Correct.
And this is only until the next election cycle. We're not calling for a special cycle. Just till, okay. All
Yeah,
right.
just
make sure we understand that.
absolutely. So the vacancy occurs. This process of governor offering up an appointee, the legislature would then confirm, Senate would then confirm, and then the appointee would take office until the next election for that position, at which point the voters would step back in and make their will known. Any other questions? Senator Fasquedo.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Jason, could you just, though, clarify that piece again that kind of eliminates the partisanship or makes it a little more fair?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, so under the substitute bill that was adopted by the committee, if there's a vacancy in the middle of the term for state treasurer, commissioner of insurance, or lieutenant governor, then the governor would appoint a person to fill just the unexpired portion of that term from the same political party as the office holder when they were elected. But those appointments for all three offices would be subject to Senate confirmation before the appointee could actually take the oath and assume the duties of the office.
And with regard to the special session, if, it wouldn't be a special session, but if we were not in session, it would be the Senate Oversight Committee that would make the vote, or the LCC?
It would be the Senate Confirmation Oversight Committee.
Confirmation Oversight.
It would be the standard process that is currently practiced with all gubernatorial appointments that occur outside of the regular session of the legislature.
Do you have a question, Senator Cluse? Okay. Everybody clear on it, I think? Do we have a motion then? What at the committee, what's the will? Senator Cluse?
I will make a motion to pass this out favorably as amended.
Okay. Is there a second?
For passage.
Second by Senator Blasey. Any discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The motion carries. We'll send this to the floor. Thank you, committee. That's all our work I have for today. We will not have a committee meeting tomorrow. I had my mom fell and broke her kneecap. Sheila's sick. And so the bill that we were going to hear tomorrow will push off until next week. The rest of the week, we'll have Senate Bill 366 on Wednesday, along with a legislative post audit on some EcoDevo stuff, because we'll have the racing and gaming and lottery budgets on Thursday and no committee meeting on Friday. So that's kind of the lay of the land for the rest of the week. Senator Longbody?
Mr. Chairman, so Senate Bill 254 will maybe work at some other point?
Yeah, we're still trying to work out the details on the amendments for 254 with regard to the 17th Amendment. And I wanted to get the senator who carried the bill, make sure that we get what she wanted to do. So that's the situation. Senator Fasquedo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with that said, I haven't checked all of my emails. Did we ever get the response back, how it relates to the Constitution?
Oh, we're working on that with the amendments on 254. Okay. So we'll have that all cleared up, and we'll have some amendments on 254 before we or when we work it, and make sure that we, and you may end up, because that was 254 is very similar to what this, or the original version is very similar to this, so there may be some additional amendments coming. Senator Blasey?
I don't plan to bring an amendment on that one, just for the record.
Okay.
I know others, I think maybe expressed interest in the Oregon plan or whatever last
There's
meeting,
two
but-
different plans. Yeah, there's the Oregon plan and there's the Wyoming plan. They're slightly different, and we can discuss that when we decide to work that, make sure that everybody's understands what we're doing and before we do it, which is always a good thing. So no committee meeting tomorrow, and we will see you on Wednesday. Thank you, committee. We're adjourned.